I wanted to kick off with probably what I guess most will sort of identify as probably what was a highlight in your career. You partnered Chris Atkinson. How did that relationship come about?
Probably came about actually very quickly and quite unexpectedly, I suppose. Because I was, at that stage competing with Dean Herridge, obviously in the Australian Championship against Chris. Chris was in the privateer Subaru. We were in the sort of factory supported Subaru. So it was a phone call kind of out of the blue. Which there'd probably been a couple of conversations with people surrounding that was surrounded with Chris prior to that phone call, but. And it was actually right before Rally Australia back in, when was it? 2004, I think it was. I was meant to be co-driving with Dean, and then they were like, right, this is what's happening next year. We want you on board. And, so it was pretty tough decisions to make over a few days there back then.
And how was Dean about that? How was the fallout?
Not great, because Dean's an awesome mate, and even to this day, he's one of my best mates, and it was something that I agonised over, and it was the background scenario to what Chris was planning on doing the following year. That was the hard bit, and I couldn't really share that either. It was just, it was actually quite tough. And I think there were some people at Subaru Australia that said, no, you need to go and do this. And so in the end, that's what I did. But, we went to Rally Australia that year, and Chris, was in the private car. I was with Chris in the private car, and Dean was in the Subaru Australia car, and I'm sure it probably spurred Dino on a little bit more, but we literally raced neck and neck till the last day of Rally Australia Dean's engine cried enough, and Chris and I were lucky enough to go on to finish in the top six and win Group N.
So you had a couple of seasons, I believe, with Chris over there. What was one of the highlights from your time with the Subaru World Rally team?
Obviously, finishing on the podium at Rally Japan was pretty cool, but I think probably the Rally Australia each of those years in 2005 and 6 was probably the highlight, just because you're competing at home, and we led the event in both years. It's probably one of the biggest regrets is we didn't actually go on to win the rally. I think one year we had a problem, lost a few minutes, and then we chased down to finish fourth. And I think from memory it was something like 9 or 10 seconds behind third, and we literally we went into that last stage with the hope that we could actually get back to be on the podium, but we didn't quite make it. Whereas the other year, something on the car actually broke or got bent, went off the road, and came back obviously super rally, and we were very, very quick. But at the time we were leading, and that's really the biggest disappointment and highlight, I suppose, all at the same time.
You went on. You've sat with so many drivers. I guess both here domestically, people like Brendan Reeves, Brad Markovich. I guess most notably probably was with Nathan Quinn and Quinny in the Mini in 2013. Now that was a massive undertaking for him to step into that car. Credit where it's due, both did a great job. But how did he deal with that situation? And how did you rate his performance given what he was up against?
I think Nathan did an exceptional job, and it was probably one of the, it's probably the most satisfying rallies I've probably ever done, to be honest with you, just because he had no expectations whatsoever. I was lucky enough to have done a couple of rallies with Chris actually in the Mini the previous year. Nathan just wanted to listen to everything he had to say and took it all in. And honestly, he had such little amount of testing, and every day of the rally he improved like massively. I think he did an amazing job given the car he was using, the tyres he was on. He did a brilliant job.
And I guess something we can probably relate here a little bit more in Australia is you've been in a couple of R5 cars, most recently notably obviously the Skoda R5 with Gorav in the APRC, and then even WRC last year in the Fiesta. What are those cars like in terms of similarity? Chalk and cheese, or very similar because they've got the regulations right?
They're quite different in the way they achieve the same thing. I think the Ford is a lot more. There's a lot more sort of dynamic change in the way the chassis works. Really sort of moves, and not so much rolling, but like lots of weight transfer front to rear. And it just, to me, it actually feels really good. Like it gives you heaps and heaps of feedback. Whereas the Skoda's a lot more solid, and you'd swear it doesn't have enough grip at the rear, and you're sort of losing time and doing stuff like that. But it's an exceptionally good car as well. They just achieve what they achieve in a different way. Engine performance. Everybody says, oh, one car's faster than the other. Honestly, I don't reckon there's not much in between any of them. And I think it, more than anything, is probably a personal preference. I know Gaurav, if you said to him, which car do you want to drive, he'd still come back and say the Skoda. Something about it sort of fits him better. But that's nothing wrong with the Ford at all. Like I'd still actually say the Ford is probably from my perspective, I reckon it's actually a better car overall for most people to actually drive. It just gives you more feedback than the Skoda does.
Look, I want to go right back to the start, and something that people probably aren't overly aware of. And when I was chatting to the other day, I thought I just sort of wanted to re-harp on it. From a period of about 97 through to 2000 there, you actually were on the administrative side of the sport, working full-time on what was the Rally of Canberra back then. Tell us a little bit about that, and how did that come about?
I was really, really lucky, actually. Like, I had actually worked for Motorsport Australia, or CAMS as it was called back then, as a rally development person for a year, which was actually working in Sydney. And basically from there, obviously met Mike Bell at the time, who was in charge of Rally of Canberra, and Mike basically said, want you to come down and work in Canberra and do the work on the marketing side, and then which then slightly changed into sort of the administration and organisational side. But yeah, so basically it was through working with or knowing Mike that got introduced to him, and then got offered the job, and it was a great job because basically, I wanted to go away and do as many rallies as possible, and the deal in Rally of Canberra was come do your job, make sure the job's done, and whenever you want to go away, you can go on a rally, then you're more than free to go. So it was the perfect job for me at the time.
Is there any? Obviously, your dad's had a very successful career on that in that side of the sport. Is there any plans for when you retire from co-driving to step back into an administrative role, or you just want to keep co-driving?
I've been very, very lucky to do what I've done over the years, and there's other things I probably could have gone and done in Europe, but I love the lifestyle back here in Australia, and I want to be based back here. Maybe one day I'd love to do some stuff back in the sort of organisational roles at rallies. I mean, I was actually the deputy clerk of course at Rally of Canberra. I was supposedly too young to be the clerk of course, so back then, but so I was the deputy clerk of course. And something I really enjoyed. So
in all your career and all the events you've been to all around the world, what's one of the standout events? And I guess, is there a story that most people wouldn't know that you could potentially share with us?
Oh, geez, now you put me on the spot. Standout events. Geez. Oh, there's so many. I mean, look, doing your home WRC rally every year is always cool. Like, I think that's a very, very, it's a cool opportunity just to be in your home country up against the best in the world. That is pretty cool. Whether, with Chris, like I said, leading those rallies at Rally, it was cool. In the mini with Nathan was super cool. Had so much support, I suppose, back then, and no expectations, and did an amazing job. Even coming home to compete with Gaurav here at WRC events is pretty cool, or even Asia-Pacific.
Well, mate, that wraps it up from our end. Thank you for taking the time, and I hope to see you in a rally car sometime soon.
Me too. Hope to be back out there sometime soon.